Thanks to our media partner Net News Ledger for live webcasting tonight, and it will also be available later for viewing after the event. If you're using social media, please use the hashtag #TBayDebate. A brief reminder of the format: the order of speaking has been determined by a draw, and questions will rotate from the stage left to the right. The questions will be posed by the panelists, and each candidate will have 60 seconds for their answer, with the receiving candidate having 30 seconds for rebuttal. The candidates will only be able to speak within the allotted time, and we do have notice cards that will be shown when 10 seconds remain, and we will cut you off when the time runs out. I remind candidates that they have pledged to be respectful, to not engage in name-calling, and to not interrupt each other when speaking, and of course to use proper language and follow the direction of the moderator. And the audience is asked to remain quiet while the candidates are speaking, but we do encourage you to please applaud after each candidate's response. Our panelists are Bonnie Crisotoway from the Lakehead Social Planning Council, Jason Racevich from the Anishinaabe Business Professionals Association, Dr. Charles Levko from the Canada Research Chair in Sustainable Food Systems, and Nathan Lawrence from the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce. So we'll now begin the forum with the candidates for Thunder Bay Rainy River, and we will start with 1-minute opening statements, beginning with Andrew. Andrew.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming tonight. My name is Andrew Hartnell. I'm the People's Party of Canada candidate for Thunder Bay Rainy River. I was born and raised in Rainy River, but I'm no stranger to Thunder Bay. I've lived here off and on for over 10 years, went to college and worked and things like that. The reason why I wanted to get into federal politics is just because I'm a small town councillor, and I was just sick and tired of the same old back and forth politics. And when this party came up, I just, everything made sense to me, getting rid of corporate welfare and working on Canada first, and, focusing on our country. And right now, I think that's kind of what we need to do. So, like I said, I was born and raised in Rainy River. I do have a disability, so that does give me some disadvantages, but yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Next up is Marcus. Please proceed.
Good evening. In this debate, we have 1 minute to answer questions. To answer complex questions with simple answers is a bit of an art, and I probably, as of yet, have not mastered that art. I'm from originally East Brock Street, then Kaministiquia. I'm a doctor in the emergency room. I also have a law degree and a few other advanced degrees in health law or health law and policy. I worked several years in developing countries. I worked writing health legislation for World Health Organization. I'm pleased to be before you tonight, and I look forward to the debate.
Thank you, Marcus. Amanda.
Thank you. My name's Amanda Mata-John, and I'm a blue-collar green. I worked my way through my education and across the entire country. I did this after sustaining an injury in the military, and I did this while raising my daughter. I know the realities of the working poor and the middle class because I have worked that slow climb, and I did a solid job of it. You can see this through my record for environmental compliance, waste management, and policy development. Thunder Bay is my home, and I am extremely passionate about effective, honest, ethical government, and long-term sustainable jobs. Jobs that will be created while we transition to a green economy. In this riding, in this election, we will make history as we elect our first female MP. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Yuk-Sem.
Thank you. My name is Yuk-Sem, and I'm the NDP candidate for Thunder Bay Rainy River. Born in Hearst, Ontario, I was raised working in a family-owned restaurant. I saw firsthand the hard work and dedication it takes to have a successful business. As a labor litigator and a professor at Confederation College in the HR program, I am ensuring that the next generation of business professionals have the skills and knowledge to succeed. People are working harder than ever, but still feel like it's impossible to get ahead. The NDP has a plan to create good jobs and make life more affordable for all, while building safe, vibrant communities where we can raise our families and where businesses can thrive. The business community in Thunder Bay has identified some key barriers for our region, including social issues such as homelessness, addictions, and mental health. These issues impact our community as a whole, and the NDP will support better public services that all Canadians can rely on.
Thank you. And Linda?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Ridholm. My love for the region and people of Northwestern Ontario has inspired me in many ways of 27 years of elected service. I was a National Board Director on the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, a municipal councillor here in the city of Thunder Bay, and a school trustee with Lakehead Public Schools. Much time, energy, and ability were devoted to 27 years of elected public service. I have served because I care. It is October 2019. Voters should choose a positive Conservative government. Choose financial management and economic development, community safety, increased health and social transfer money, a real environmental plan, fair immigration process, and good ethics. Please vote. Linda Ridholm.
So the first question will be from Jason from the Anishinaabe Business Professionals Association, and the first response will be from Andrew. So Jason, your question, please.
Okay, thank you. Clean drinking water is a right, and many First Nations across the region don't have access to such an essential part of life. Please provide an overview of your party's platform on what it is doing to ending First Nation water advisories.
Thanks for that question. That's actually one of our big parts for our platform. We do have an Indigenous platform for our party. One way we need to end boil water advisories is, one way we can do that is we need to end the corporate welfare in this country, because we can take that money that's given to big rich corporations that they hand out all the time and give them, into our actual country and work on our people first. We need to, it's a crime that in this day and age we even have boil water advisories in this country. I understand it takes time, it takes money, it takes a lot of stuff, but it can eventually get done, and that's part of our platform, is to get rid of boil water advisories and working with the communities and basically working with them and giving some more responsibilities to the reserves and helping them succeed and helping them, get out of poverty and get rid of the boil water advisories.
Thank you, Andrew. Marcus?
Thanks. I love this question. I work for World Health Organization writing water quality legislation in Laos. The Liberals have really addressed this problem. They've put $6 billion into treatment of wastewater and providing adequate drinking water for First Nation communities. When they first came into power, there was 105 long-term water advisories in effect. They've eliminated 87 of those as of now. There are still some, but they've committed themselves to eliminate the remaining ones, I think, by 2020, 2022. However, we certainly believe that there is a right to water. It's a socioeconomic and cultural right. And certainly we will, as a party, do our best. We've already started addressing this issue, and we will continue to address this issue, and we won't stop until all the water advisories are over.
Thank you, Marcus. Amanda?
Thank you very much. I think the first thing that we really need to do is uphold Canada's fiduciary responsibility and fulfill Canada's responsibilities in agreements, honor treaties, and respect all rights of Indigenous people, including their inherent right to self-governance. With that as well, we're going to include representatives from First Nations, Métis, and Inuit governments on the Council of Canadian Governments to improve policy coherence and optimize public spending with respect to other orders of policy. So what that means is, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how we're going to clean First Nations drinking water. I'm going to tell you that we're going to work with those communities so this problem can actually be satisfied. This has been going on for far too long, and there's far too many people that are without drinking water. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been to Big Island. I've been to Big Grassy. There are still boil water advisories in our riding, and that to me is a shame. It has been going on for too long, and even over the 4 years that we've seen under the Liberal government, there are still too many that are not being addressed. They are on wait lists. They are being told, yes, it's coming, and that's not good enough. The NDP has committed to spending and investing the amount of money that is needed to address that issue immediately, because 2022 is too long to wait for somebody to be able to turn on the tap and have water to drink, to cook, and to bathe. This is 2019, and we need to address it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda?
Clean water is an essential element of life, and it's good that a start has been made for these First Nation communities. The Conservative Party of Canada has committed to continuing with that process, making it a collaborative process, making it work for each individual community, whatever deems the best way for them. Personally, as a city councillor, I made sure that we provided city water along East Mountain Road because Fort William needed clean drinking water, safe water, good tasting water on East Mountain Road 20 years ago. And I made sure that we had the city engineer out there. We had meetings. We then provided a water line for both sides of that road, both the reserve side and the city side. So personally, I'm certainly on board, and so is the Conservative Party. Thank you.
You get 30 seconds for rebuttal if there's anything further you want to respond on that question.
I just want to add, just like I said, I know we're a new party. I know we're just getting out there, and we might not have the good or bad press, whatever it is out there. But I think there is a need for a change because, like I said, with being a year-old party with 40,000 members and almost every candidate in every riding, I think people are needing a change, and I think that change is the People's Party.
Thank you. And so that is the end of that first question. We'll now move to Dr. Charles, who will pose the next question, and it will be starting with a response by Marcus. So, Charles?
Great. So health, equity, and environmental sustainability are deeply interconnected. Our new Canadian Food Guide demonstrates that our nutritional needs in addition to meeting our nutritional needs, our food needs to be culturally appropriate, come from production and harvesting systems that work with nature, that are sustainable, and be weary of corporate advertising, be wary of processed foods, and promote the overall health of communities. So how would you ensure that your government would ensure physical and economic access to sufficient, culturally appropriate food for all people in Canada, and that our food system is rooted in principles of health, equity, and environmental sustainability?
Thank you. Marcus?
Well, thanks for the question. I think one of the parts of that question goes to food sustainability and local food supplies, which we certainly want to encourage. The Liberals put $50 million into an infrastructure program to give money towards local food sustainability, and I would certainly encourage that. Another part of your question goes to, and I think you're getting at, food supplies in Indigenous communities. And I've worked a couple of years in Indigenous communities, and you go to the northern store and you try to buy a quart of milk or an apple or something, it's just ridiculously priced. There's certainly a problem, I think, with access to good and affordable food in those communities. And I would certainly say that the Liberal Party is probably will be aware of that kind of problem. And I certainly personally feel that this is a very real problem of food access that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Amanda.
Thank you very much. One of the things that the Green Party is very focused on doing is putting an awful lot of money into the research and support that farmers need to shift from the current model of farming that they have to something that's more sustainable, something that won't actually harm the food supply going forward. We're also going to set a target to replace a third of Canada's food imports with domestic production. What that's going to do is actually return 15 billion food dollars back into our economy, and this will be through local supply. We also want to restore the prairie farm rehabilitation measures. So I understand that this here isn't specific prairie. However, with that there's an awful lot of prairie regions in Ontario that will benefit from this, and with this initiative, it's going to increase a lot of things, including the soil quality. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Yuk-Sem?
Everyone deserves to have access to food that's healthy and affordable. And it's unbelievable that so many children, seniors, and families are going hungry in one of the richest countries in the world. So the New Democrats are committed to making sure that no one goes hungry in Canada. To do that, we're going to work with farmers to get more affordable, healthy local food on the table in the communities across the country. We're going to tackle food waste with a national strategy to reduce waste and support initiatives that repurpose and process food that would otherwise head for the landfill. We want to support Indigenous food sovereignty and make sure that families in the North have access to healthy food. We want to help Canadians make ends meet with strong public services like affordable housing, universal pharmacare, and affordable, accessible childcare, which will leave more in their pockets to buy their groceries. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda.
This is one of those tough ones to try to answer in 1 minute. Health, equity, environmental sustainability, yes, they all go together. Cultural sensitivity. One thing that comes to my mind very quickly is, why do we have these genetically modified foods? We have to do away with that. We have to protect and have pure foods in our country. That's something that we need to work on very, very quickly. Something that hasn't been said is that the carbon tax is added to every item, including food, that is flown into communities or trucked into communities. So that carbon tax is an extra cost for everyone. The Conservative government, as its first act in Parliament, will cancel it. I could say more about that, but that's one reason we're canceling it. Also, we will be negotiating new trade agreements to support Canadian-grown foods. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Andrew.
One thing that I believe the government needs to do is, whoever gets in, whatever it is, the government needs to respect the farmer, because without the farmer, there is none of this. And in this country, being from a small farm in Northern Ontario, I could tell you that the farmers left alone to do, it's up to them. There is no handouts, there's not a lot of subsidies, there's minimal insurance. You can't get that stuff through the government. If you're a small farmer in this area, you're on your own, and that there's very little help from that. We need to start realizing that if we didn't have the farmer, there wouldn't be any of this. And one other thing we want to do is get rid of things like supply management, so that phase it out throughout time, so when there is milk and cheese and all that stuff up in north, it's not crazy expensive like it is now.
Thank you. And Marcus, you have 30 seconds to make any further comments on this topic.
I wanted to address part of the question was on culturally appropriate food supply. So yes, there is government, there is money available from the federal government towards science and innovation with respect to food. Agri-marketing, 120 million, agri-science, 150 million, agri-innovation, 350 million. As to culturally appropriate food, I know Seine River was trying to, and is interested in getting their wild rice production going. This is certainly, I think, the kind of area maybe we're talking about. It's big business in Minnesota. We should start making money off it here. It's great for the local economy. It's great for
Thank you,
employing
Marcus.
people.
Thank you so much. Okay, our next question is from Nathan from the Chamber of Commerce, and the first response will be from Amanda. Nathan?
It's been 50 years since Canada last undertook a comprehensive review of our tax system. The cutting and pasting approach of tax credit implementation has left our system uncompetitive, cumbersome, and inefficient. Business owners and tax practitioners report frustration and a need to commit significant time, often at a considerable expense, to deal with the taxation and filing issues. If elected, will your party appoint a royal commission to conduct a comprehensive review of the Canadian tax system guided by the principles of tax competitiveness, simplicity, fairness, and neutrality? Why or why not?
Absolutely. But in addition to that, we're also going to implement the Council of Canadian Governments. So what that's going to allow us to do is actually have these conversations across all levels of government. So that means federally, provincially, territorially, Indigenous, municipal, and rural governments all will have these conversations so that we can make these policy priorities and have conversations so that the people in this area here are actually getting the best bang for their buck and they're not living so poor anymore. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yuk-Sem?
So the tax system right now, 2 out of 3 Canadians are getting no relief. The rich are getting richer and the rest of us are getting left behind. The new Democrat government wants to make fundamentally different choices. Our fiscal policies will put everyday Canadians and their families first. We want to raise revenues through new, fair, and progressive taxation sources. We want to close the loopholes that are currently being tax havens and where big corporations are able to store away money that away from our revenue source, as well as to tax those who are making $20 million or more. We're going to raise the tax by 1% to ensure that our services are able to be funded for the rest of us. So it is something that we need to review and we need to do differently. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda?
Okay. Tax system. Comprehensive review, yes, that would be very helpful. 80% of Canadians today pay $800 more per year in taxes than they did 4 years ago. That's 80% of Canadians are paying through a variety of different taxes than they did a few years ago. And a Conservative government seeks to reduce those taxes, various ones, lowering the lowest tax rate for the lowest category. That'll be a big one, especially for people like my mom who are living on a modest income in a modest home. You know, hundreds of dollars will help her there. Reducing or taking away, actually, the tax on home heating, canceling the carbon tax, simplifying. We have too many taxes. But as far as the income tax, it definitely needs review. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew?
Yes, we need to do something like that. We need to take a look at our tax system because right now there's taxes all over. Like, we need to get rid of the carbon taxes, number one, because right now we have a tax. It's called the gas tax. And we're also paying tax on a tax right now, and people can't afford it. Right now in this country, there's basically 2 groups of people, the rich and the poor, because that's pretty much the system they have. And a lot of families are struggling, and like I said, I come from a big family, and a majority of them are wondering if they can actually pay their hydro bill or, upgrade their vehicle or do other things. and it's really hard right now, and we need to like look at our tax system, and we need to help the lower income and help the struggling families and help people actually get ahead.
Thank you. Marcus?
To answer your question, yes, the Liberals will engage in publicly a reported review of several existing tax measures and will take actions to make taxes more fair. This includes taking steps to crack down on corporate tax evasion and avoidance and asking the wealthiest Canadians to pay a little bit more. And there's a whole bunch of things that ensue with that. They're talking about trying to ensure that multinational companies don't go from jurisdiction to avoid taxation, to improve whistleblower provisions, to cut down on tax loopholes, and to make sure that the tech giants who are making money in Canada pay some tax on that income. As to the complexities of the system, I'm totally sympathetic as someone who's written legislation. You know, you don't want to write legislation that's so damn difficult to understand that you have to have a PhD in economics to fill out your tax return, and I certainly sympathize with making that easier.
Thank you. And Amanda, you have 30 seconds for any further comments on this question.
Perfect. The Green Party is very focused on honest, ethical, caring leadership. What that means is we are going to open up these conversations right across all party lines and across all levels of government so that we can actually have effective taxation without more words on paper that really don't do anything but hurt more people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next question is from Bonnie from the Lakehead Social Planning Council, and the first response will be Yuk-Sem. Bonnie.
Thank you. The poverty rate for families with children has declined, likely due to key investments like the Ontario Child Benefit, the Canada Child Benefit, and full-day kindergarten. Families without children, though, are not as economically advantaged. Poverty rates for this group, for single people and couples without children, now represent 72% of households experiencing low income. What would your party do to alleviate this new imbalance and discrepancy in tax benefits?
Yuk-Sem?
So could you just repeat the last piece of that question? Sorry.
That's the question.
What would your party do to alleviate this new imbalance and discrepancy in tax benefits?
So the one thing that we can do is to make sure that life becomes more affordable for all, right? So those are things like building and investing in affordable housing, implementing pharmacare right away, which will not only help our medical and our health system, but also ensure that you can get your medication, dental, vision, and mental health with a health card, not a credit card, and those are things that will impact everyone, as well as ensuring that we have the social supports to make our safe, vibrant communities grow. And those are things that are implemented across all populations, not just targeted at certain ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda?
Okay, under the Conservative platform, the benefits for children will continue. Activities will be instituted. For other folks, how to help you get ahead is the Conservative plan aim, how to help you get ahead. Well, for one thing, that income tax rate will be decreased for the lower income folks. Anyone 47,000 is actually a pretty decent amount. Any 47,000 or so and less, so the income tax rate will be decreased. That will help, say about $850 on 47,000 would help in a whole household for sure. Should. The thing is that many of these people have already raised their children and or they have disabilities, and that's where the social needs come in. The Conservative platform says at least 3% increase per year for the next 4 years for all those social needs.
Thank
and then
you,
it's up to
Linda.
the provinces. Yeah.
Thank you. Andrew.
we need to help cut taxes. Our party is looking at for cutting down for personal tax breaks. That's one of the biggest things right now, because like I said, the taxes are crazy around here. We also need to work on infrastructure and businesses in our own country and work on Canada first and just help basically create jobs instead of sending them elsewhere. And we need to actually just focus on bringing skilled workers here and building infrastructure and getting that kind of all that stuff done. We need to work on our tax structures and just growing our economy and trying to put money into our own economy instead of everyone else's, and things like building the pipeline and doing stuff that focuses on us first instead of other countries.
Thank you. Marcus.
So your question is how to make things better off for people on limited income without kids. Now, to begin with, let me say that there's a whole bunch of liberal provisions related to families with children, and it's there for a reason. I've got 5 kids, and I certainly understand having children adds a lot of costs to your life. Now, having said that, there are plenty of things that the Liberals have done to raise people out of poverty into the middle class, growing the middle class. For example, they've proposed to increase the basic personal exemption up to $15,000, which will mean more money in the pockets of people up to $40,000. Another thing that's probably important, a lot of people, an important part of their life is having a home. And there's the first-time home buyers incentive, which will give you 10% of the cost of a new house and 5% of the cost of an older home. So we've done plenty to, I think, address this issue.
Thank you very much. Amanda.
Thank you. There's an awful lot the Green Party wants to do, including bringing more long-term sustainable jobs to the area. And what that's going to do is increase the quality of life for anybody. In addition to that, we're also going to implement the guaranteed livable income. And what that means is when you have those lulls between jobs, you still have the actual protection there. So you can continue on living life, not being so afraid, but you can also upgrade your skills and things like that. In addition to that, the Green Party is very focused on free tuition. So what that means is people that want to advance their skills can, and they can do it affordably. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Yuk-Sem, you have 30 seconds for any further comments.
So I think one of the things that the NDP truly does understand is that Band-Aid solutions and just giving tax breaks or little incentives to this pocket or that is not sustainable, and it's not helping our communities grow. So we think that we have to get to the root of the problem, and we need to implement systems that help everyone get ahead. So that we have communities that are safe, where businesses can thrive, and that families want to stay in the north. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next question is from Jason from the Anishinaabe Business Professionals Association, and the response will be first from Linda. So Jason, your question, please.
Thank you. Today, the Indigenous economy is growing at an exponential rate. Indigenous people contribute over $30 billion annually to Canada's GDP. This is projected to increase to $100 billion by 2024. First Nation people are also starting businesses at 9 times the Canadian average. These Indigenous businesses will need access to capital, markets, and ultimately business opportunities. What is your party doing to promote First Nation inclusion in procurement processes to ensure that Indigenous businesses can prosper?
Linda.
Thank you. That was lots of good news to hear. Those statistics are impressive. There will be, I know, help continued for economic development. There has been between Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the Native Development Officers Group across the country, and I know that many of those businesses got started because of that good work. I was involved with a 2-year project here with Fort William First Nation. I don't pretend to be an expert on Indigenous per se business, okay? I'm right up front with that. But I would think that a conservative government that always does well for the economy and making jobs, creating jobs, will be helping all sectors of our country, including the Indigenous. And of course, we all do better if we're all well off and working.
Thank you, Linda.
But so we're able.
Andrew.
Our party has a plan to work with Indigenous communities and help businesses grow. We're, like I said, it's in our platform, and we want to work with them. We need to actually help them grow and help them sustain businesses and help things happen, because on an average right now, we spend about $20 billion on reserves, and around my area, I'm surrounded, I have quite a few reserves around Rainy River, and a lot of them are still struggling. They still have issues, and they're not being addressed. And we're having a really tough time in the area where, as I said, we still have boil water advisories, we still have housing issues and things like that. We want to work together with the communities and actually help them prosper, so we're not just fixing it with the Band-Aid. There's a real issue that needs to be fixed.
Thank you.
I liked the question. I liked how you incorporated the numbers in it. In my mind, that was pretty impressive. I think really the way forward for Indigenous communities is one, education, and two, business opportunities. And now the federal government, there is already available, as I'm sure you probably know, an Aboriginal business and entrepreneurship development assistance where you can get up to $99,999 for individuals and $250,000 for community businesses in order for business projects. I know also in the platform that the Liberal government has promised to incorporate Indigenous people into their decision making, so they benefit from the exploitation of resources in their territory. And I guess mostly directly answering your question is the government has promised to try to make sure that 5% of government procurements go to Indigenous companies.
Thank you. Amanda?
I think it's really important that we first of all recognize that the First Nations communities need to take the lead role in this. So we have to follow what they need, and they will tell us. They really will, but we need to open up those lines of communication. So we need to do this in a responsible way. I totally agree that education is a very important thing, which is why in most treaties it's already been stated that they were to put schools on reserves. But I don't know, maybe we should start by honoring the treaties, and I think that's exactly what the Green Party is going to do 100%. We are going to uphold Canada's fiduciary responsibility, and we are going to fulfill Canada's responsibilities in agreement, honor treaties, and respect all rights of Indigenous people. Now with that too, we're also going to, with the Indigenous leaders at the helm, establish a process for self-governing. And what this is going to do is take them out of the current unworkable framework and get all of us into a situation where we can work together. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Yuk-Sem.
Thank you. For decades now, Indigenous peoples have been seeking for a new fiscal relationship with the Crown, and we need to support that and make room at the table for those relationships to form. We know that the communities are looking for employment and economic opportunities to create good jobs, and we need to make room for that too. The new Democratic government will work with Indigenous communities to make sure that there's the infrastructure that is needed to thrive, which means access to the internet and broadband, access with roads and housing to support the people that are there. We will also have specific initiatives that are looking to support the Indigenous entrepreneurs, like making sure that FedNor is a standalone regional system. Here, it's an agency here for the North, and that they can access some of those funds specifically for Indigenous entrepreneurs and businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. And Linda, you have 30 seconds if you wish to make any further comments in this response.
Creation of jobs should always be a condition if any provincial or federal government is involved. I remember years ago when only 25% Canadian content, for example, was set here at Bombardier, and I said at the time that would not be enough. I was correct. It should have been 50%. And similarly, I would hope that any money, whether it's providing services to an area for mining or forestry, anything like that, near the communities, would have a condition for jobs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving on to our next question. The question will be from Charles with the food strategy, and the first response will come from Andrew. So Charles, your question, please.
Right. So Canada has severely lagged behind other advanced, economically advanced countries in supporting a national school food program. In fact, we are the only country in the group of 7 that does not offer a federally funded school program. So today, 1 out of 6 children and youth experience food insecurity in Canada, and of course this number is much higher in First Nations. And this despite Canada's commitment to a right to food for all. So studies have shown that a lack of sufficient and adequate food can have serious impact on children's physical and psychological development and their ability to function in school. So the question is, would you and your party support a universal healthy school food program? And if so, what steps would you take to make this happen?
Andrew.
I think that's a great question. I would absolutely do that because, like I said, coming from a small town, like in Rainy River, for example, our town, it really counts on that program because it is a big part, because that way we know that a lot of kids won't go hungry and stuff. It is a huge program for this area, and we definitely need to look at something like that because, like, in today's day and age, there should never even be a question if a kid can go to school hungry. That shouldn't even be an issue, but we would definitely look at that. And looking at the main places where they need it, where they need it the most, whether it's small areas and things like that, we need to focus on where they need it and just go from there.
Thank you. Marcus.
I have to admit, I think the Liberals there is a national food policy, and I think they were the first government to actually implement a national food policy. I'm not sure if there's anything in the platform related to national school programs. I would certainly think that we would be interested in such an idea. I remember going to live in Boston and going into the local school, and the woman there asked and said, do your kids, how much money do you make? And I said, well, I'm a doctor, and I don't think I'm going to qualify for the food program. And she said, no, how much do you make? And I said, well, I'm at school here. I'm not making a whole heck of a lot of money. And she said, you qualify. And so my kids got free food, and I could think that's kind of interesting in the United States. Kids were getting food from their government. Maybe we could do more, and I would think certainly if we can make a case for it and there's the money available, I would think that the liberal governments would be interested in that idea.
Thank you, Marcus. Amanda.
Thank you very much. That is absolutely an initiative that the Green Party does 100% support. But in addition to that, my daughter is Aboriginal, and one of the things that she's very much benefited from is the Aboriginal Head Start program. With that program, she has learned not only how to eat healthier, but how to prepare her own foods. So, as I was saying before, one of the things that the Green Party is going to do is implement the Canadian Council of Governance so that we can have these conversations across party lines, across different jurisdictions, so that we can actually get the funding to the programs that we need. So that way our kids can eat more healthy every day. Thank you very much.
Yuk-Sem?
So not only does the NDP believe in that we need to have a school nutrition program, we know that it's there. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to make for a case for it because it's already in our platform, and we've already known for a long time that this is an initiative that we must take care of. As a teacher, I've seen firsthand what the impact is when children don't have access to that healthy food. And in our society now, with things becoming more and more unaffordable, and that we have to make decisions sometimes about what types of food we're buying for our children, because you can get the burger and the processed food really cheaply, but then the fruits and vegetables are so expensive that we need to make sure that at school children have everything they need to be able to learn and grow and prosper.
Thank you. Linda.
Children, especially in elementary school, need that head start, the fair start. There's an indication, though, that there's issues in the families if those kids are coming without food, without good food. So there's a deeper problem here. Provinces, and I know many schools here in Thunder Bay, are dealing with it, and it didn't used to be that way. We should think about that. Why is it that these kids don't have food? Is it because it's too costly for the parents? Is it because the parents are not getting up in time to make them lunches to take to school? What's happening there? Certainly, provincial governments, local school boards are working on it. But it's sad. I worry about our society when there's that need, okay? I mean, I agree with providing it, but I worry about our society when there's the need for the public at large to provide food for children.
Thank you, Linda. And we have 30 seconds for Andrew, if you have any further comments on this. He's good. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Then we're going to move on to our closing statements as time is winding up here. So each candidate will have 1 minute to provide a closing statement. These will be done in the reverse order of the opening statements. So we will start with Linda. You have 1 minute.
I am hoping that we will choose change this fall and elect a majority Conservative government. The Conservative platform promises cancellation of the carbon tax. By 2022, it will be about $1,100 a year per household. Cancel it. Tax-free maternity benefits. Cancellation of the GST on home heating. Guarantee of health and social transfer payments to the provinces. New money for MRI and CT machines. A reduced income tax rate, a real plan to protect our environment, a fair process for immigration, support for legal gun owners, ethical leadership, and improved financial management overall. There's an even longer list of recommendations. Look at votelinda.ca, the website. We need real change, positive change. Please vote Conservative. Linda Ridholm here in Thunder Bay, Rainy River.
Thank you. Yuk-Sem?
Thank you. I think the issue that we're all facing is that life is becoming more and more affordable for the rest of us, right? We need to address the issues that are at the root of those problems. We need to be able to have a government that chooses people in communities over corporations and pipelines. And we need to be able to make a choice not based on fear and scare tactics, but actually on what's best for Canada and Canadians. And that choice is with the NDP. We have a vision for a Canada where no one gets left behind. We have a vision for a Canada that is helping communities and helping people build and prosper and have a chance to move forward. It is something that the NDP truly believes that making better, that having people in communities as our priority will lead to different choices, and that's the only way that we're going to get different outcomes. Thank you. Yuk-Sem Wan,
Thank
NDP.
you. Amanda?
Thank you. In this election, people are concerned with voting to stop climate change or to put more money in their pocket. As your MP, I will do both. I will bring jobs, long-term sustainable jobs, to this region. From manufacturing jobs at Bombardier, to retrofitting existing buildings, to making them carbon neutral, and expanding our power grid laterally so more power runs east to west, not just to our neighbors to the south. Jobs that will transition us to a green economy. Greens work to ensure the needs of the people who live, work, and study here are met. Contrary to what was promised to us in 2015, this is the next first past the post election. But it is different from those of the past because we're going to have a minority government. This is much to the disappointment of the candidates here that are telling you to use fear to sway your decision. We have a woman MP. We will have a woman MP representing us after this election. A vote for a Green MP is a vote for a kind of government that you want. Remember this when you vote, and vote for your conscience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amanda. Marcus.
We live in a world of increasingly political polarization on the right and the left. I think there's a real substantial thirst in this country for a party of moderation, a centrist party, a party that believes in doing things for the disadvantaged, that there's an obligation for us to do that, but a party that also realizes the importance of small business and the fact that a robust economy is the engine that pulls all of our social programs, a party that also believes in tolerance, and a party that believes in fiscal responsibility. Now, this constellation of beliefs, I think everybody claims to have, but I think there's one party and one party only that truly believes in those things, and that's the Liberal Party and only the Liberal Party.
Thank you, Marcus. Andrew.
Listen, I'm sure we can all agree I'm not a public speaker. I'm probably not the best speaker around here. I'm literally just a small town councilor with a disability, which is probably maybe fumbling my words a little bit tonight. But like you said, I was just somebody that was tired of the same old stuff. We've all sat up here and gave you our little promises and what we can do and things we can do. You know, everyone's going to say it'll be different this time. Well, a lot of times it's not. And there's some parties up here that we keep going back and forth to the same old thing. Change it 4 years, come back again, and you know maybe they'll forget about it. So, but to me, I'm just a small town guy that wants to try and make a change and bring honesty to Ottawa. Honestly, because I don't have any cheat sheets up here. I'm pretty much just winging it. So I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really been coached on how to do this kind of stuff. I'm just hoping you vote for me on October 21st.
Thank you very much. So that concludes tonight's candidates forum. Let's give another round of applause to the candidates for Thunder Bay Rainy River. Great job. Special thanks to our media supporter, Net News Ledger. The forum will be available to watch on netnewsledger.com as well as on T-Baytel's Neighborhood Channel and Shaw Cable. Thanks to our host, Confederation College, our partners and panelists from the Anishinaabe Business Professional Association, the Lakehead Social Planning Council, the Area Food Strategy, and thanks to all of you for attending. Go out and vote. Thanks for coming. Have a great night.